Hi, my name is Jen. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I teach English at Allderdice High School. I currently have 9th graders, and I also participated in playing with poems with Professor Hammer. And I won't review, Brandon put it so eloquently, the experience that we had in that seminar. It was awesome. And I just will echo that he mentioned that he was intimidated. And I would say I was not only intimidated by Professor Hammer, but also just by this idea of Yale in general. And I was really nervous about coming here and feeling like I could hang, like I was smart enough and I knew enough and I was a good enough teacher. And the way that the seminar went for us, the way that Laney conducted that seminar made me, he valued our ideas, he valued what we had to say, he let us figure it out like Brandon said. And I was able to come away from here and say that I came to Yale and I felt smart. And it was really cool. It was very moving for me. I'm going to move straight on to my unit, which I actually was one of those people that changed the unit in the middle of the week, of the first week that you hear about. And you're like, how do you even handle that? And I came in not really knowing what I wanted to write about. I think I had this idea and I was not attached to it as strongly as I wanted to be. I just couldn't get started. And so we were reading poems that involve repetition, and one of the kinds of poems that we read was a Sestina. And I'd never seen this kind of poem before, and I was really excited about it. The one that we read was about Popeye, and it was really funny and cool, and it had so much awesome language in it, and I was just very drawn to it. And Laney said, if you're excited about something, write about that, and you'll find a way to teach it, you'll find a way to make it work for your classroom. And that's what I did. I wrote this unit about the Sestina, and it was all about that one form. And this is not a form that is in our curriculum at all. And so I actually, instead of teaching this as a lengthy unit, I actually taught it in 5 days. And it was embedded within the poetry unit that my students already were going to do in the curriculum, which involves a ton of poems, and they make a little scrapbook at the end, and it's nice and warm and fuzzy and wonderful. And you get a lot of the insights that Brandon was talking about into the mind of a 9th grader, which is sometimes interesting and sometimes serious and sometimes hilarious, which you'll see in a minute when I tell you some of these poems that they wrote. But the cool thing was that doing the research on this one form of poetry really helped me think about how I taught all the other forms of poetry. So even though what I actually did here, I only spent 4 or 5 days on in the classroom, it informed everything else that I did in that unit. The way that we talked about poems, the way that we approached writing them was informed by the things that I learned when I was researching and writing. So the things that we actually did in the classroom, we read the poem Sestina by Elizabeth Bishop, and we actually spent 2 days on that. I had the kids write questions about the some of the words that were in that poem. So I won't go through the particulars of the Sestina because it's very intricate, but the thing to take away from it is the words at the end of the lines repeat over and over, but in different orders. So it's really cool. It makes this like really neat, like we feel like you're swirling around a little bit, and it's awesome. But so they wrote questions. We had discussions about it, and some of them really liked it. They got really into it. Some of them were like, oh, this is just another poem that I have to deal with. Great, thanks. And the second thing that we did was I put them in groups, and they wrote one together as a group, because it's a very long poem. It's 39 lines, and could be a little bit intimidating for the novice poet. So put them in groups of 3, and they had to write together. And Dean Holloway earlier was mentioning some of the things that we teach in our classrooms that are kind of the more intangible things, like becoming a better person and learning how to be a citizen and things like that. And I think, obviously, it's really cool to know how to write good poems and to be able to appreciate them, but I think writing this poem also taught them some things about working with each other, which was really cool. Some of them got really into it. They were like fired up, and they were passing the paper around, and everybody was contributing, and it was like they were just having so much fun. One student, I had to talk him down because he was so angry because he wanted to write it his way, and the rest of his group would not follow along with him. They wanted to do it their way, and I had to explain to him that like this is life, and sometimes you have to compromise with people. Adam is still not very happy about that whole experience. But some of the poems that they wrote turned out really awesome. So one of my students wrote, or one of the groups wrote a poem called Home Alone, and it was about, it started out with a boy that was a teenager and his experience being home alone and his parents were gone, and it progressed through his life to when he was the parent and how this idea of home alone and homework and some of these things that are teenage things changed for him in his life. It was really cool. Another student wrote one called Interplanetary Love Story, which is exactly what it sounds like. And it was really funny and awesome. And another student wrote one called Cray Cray, which each of the N words was cray cray. So as you might imagine, that poem was cray cray. It was they wrote about the internet. They wrote about video games, which I didn't understand, but I participated in that one. They let me write one of the verses, and I tried to. It was about, I guess you know how you can like talk to other people while you play them? It was about the kind of banter that you have with the other people on the other side of your video game, and I had no idea about it because I don't do that, but I wrote some of it and learned what a noob is, and it was pretty fun. So, all in all, I think, I guess to bring it all together, the experience of taking this thing that I never knew anything about before and learning about it and getting excited about it myself and then trying to get my kids excited about it and seeing how that turned out, and it was hit or miss, but I know that, you know, we made some progress. I made some progress, and they're doing something different. It was something they had never seen before. And for the kids that in this class that I teach, that's tough to do. They're very bright, and they read a lot, and they do a lot of things on their own outside of school that are, so, you know, sometimes they come in and they're like, I already read that book, I already did this. And so to give them something that they had never seen before and say, you gotta figure this out, was really cool.